Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Jesse Burkunk. I worked at Sanoma indeed 6 years ago, somewhere around. I worked here for 10 years, worked on nu.nl, the news site most of you are familiar with. For now I work with NoProtocol. We're a small agency in Amsterdam, but growing and growing. We are a design and development company, and my role as a strategy director is focusing on new innovations and consultancy stuff, and also do a bit of UX design. We do that for different clients. Also for Sanoma, we did a redesign project this year. And sometimes I do talks about new technologies and innovation. So today I want to talk about chatbots and conversational interfaces. And this is the current situation. It makes it really hard to talk about these kind of technologies, because on one side you have the people, what the hell is a chatbot? And on the other side you have the people, oh no, not another chatbot. So it's really hard to find out when you're having a conversation with someone or having a presentation like this is who I'm talking with. But I think it's good to stand still by what a chatbot basically is. It's a program or computer program designed to have a conversation or simulate a conversation with a user. And you see a lot of them at this time. This is an example, Hyatt hotels. You can you can book a hotel room via Facebook Messenger. But always, also in news business, like The Guardian and Dutch NRC are experimenting with chatbots for distributing the news. And some extremer example in media is the Quartz news service. They decided to make their own mobile experience in a conversation. So instead of just posting headlines and let people scroll through it, you start a conversation with a news service, and you, by giving answers, it detects what your interests are and gives proper results back. It's quite an extreme example of conversational interfaces or chatbot technology. Also, Uber started quite early with conversational interfaces. They have an integration with Facebook that works this way. Maybe you have seen it before. But you're in a conversation, you post an address, and right in Facebook you can request a ride, and the service of Uber starts, and well, within no time there's an Uber. So you don't have to start a separate application. You can do it within a conversation with other users, and it's quite easy and it's quite fun to see things get so easy. Another example is Lemonade, which is an insurance company from New York City, and their whole experience of claiming stuff is by their mobile app. And especially their conversation interface. So there are no service desk agents anymore. You don't have to call a number. You just have a conversation with a bot, and your claim is approved within seconds, they say. Well, for the Dutch, KLM has announced that they also are strategically busy with moving to conversational services. For example, for booking your tickets or finding the right information about your current flight, all based in the messenger interface. So no app install needed, just in an environment you're already familiar with. Also some very fun experiments like Zootropolis by Disney. They, as an extension of the popular movie, they did a text-based adventure, all in the Facebook interface, so kids could go on adventure and search for clues to solve a specific case. And when Kim Kardashian is on board, well, then you really know that conversational interfaces are a bit over the hype. So that were all text-based examples of conversational design and interfaces of chatbots. And this is another example of a conversational interfaces which is not based on text but on voice control. And you might have seen it in the news or maybe own one. At this moment it can't understand Dutch, so we have to wait a bit to talk in Dutch with it. But it's some interesting developments happening over here. On CES, the whole hardware and gadgets conference, this was quite a popular subject because a lot of hardware and a lot of products are able to attach to the Alexa system, so your dryer and your fridge and stuff can be controlled by voice. So that's also a conversational pattern. But with all the hype, you also get the critics, and I think that's where we're currently at. This is the Gartner hype cycle. For those who don't know this type of graphic, it gives you insights in emerging technologies, and when it's for example, you have a start, you have a peak of inflated expectations. That's exactly where I think chatbots are now at the moment, and they go through disillusionment, and at the end, some things will fail. Some of the new products and emerging technologies will just go to the valley of death, but some will rise and will be mainstream, and we will be profitable for companies. I think at this moment, chatbots in particular are just going down the slope, and a lot of people reading tech news are really fed up with all the news of chatbots, and all the promises aren't really, how do you say it, ingelost? Met, yeah, true, yeah. I think one of the reasons that people get a bit fed up with the term chatbot is the term itself. It implicates informal conversations, chatting with a bot, and on the other side, bots are not very good at chatting at this moment. We've seen some really great examples by James of deep learning, AI stuff. It's really great what's happening there, but a natural conversation with a robot is still very complex and very hard. So I think in the name, there's a bit of disillusionment. So we have to talk about the conversational UI. Oh, I hate animations in presentations. I thought I deleted them. And the conversational UI, a lot of programmers here, I guess, because it's a tech meeting, has never been away and go way back, because communicating with computers by text is, well, the most basic form of interaction with a computer. And it's still used by many programmers, but also power users are liking to communicate by text. It's much faster than a mouse. Yeah, for other crowds, I use the example of a text adventure, which is maybe familiar for a lot of you, but the early games are based on text input and text output, questions and answers, and imagination, a lot of imagination. Until the first graphical user interfaces, which made it popular by the crowd to use computers because you had icons that stood for something you could understand, so you didn't have to learn a lot of difficult syntax and commands to make use of your computer. And that resulted in the thing we know today, like the rich graphical user interface with lots of nice colored pixels and icons. But in the meantime of this development, we also saw the rise of SMS, which took on and on and on, and it learned us, and also the mainstream, to type very fast on very small computers. So that if I remember in the 80s, and I looked at my parents, they weren't so fast at typing at a computer. So one, they didn't know the syntax how to use a computer, and two, they weren't fast enough to get quick responses. But in the meantime, they learned to use it a lot. Same counted for messaging services. We all kept texting with each other instead of with the computer, but still it learned us how to work with commands and go very fast with typing. And still, at our offices, Slack is one of our most popular tools. We don't use email that often anymore, so text-based is never was away. So conversations are a natural pattern. Still, it feels personal and trusted. It's fast, reliable, easy to use, and great UX does not depend on design trends. And I think the last one is very important for what we see now, and that's what I'm going to explain. Why the hype? So when it's all old design patterns and it's been used for ages, why is everybody in Silicon Valley and the media so hyped about this new design pattern or solution? First of all, I think one of the reasons is mobile technology and mobile screens. We have very powerful PCs in our pockets, but very small screens, so we want to tell a lot within very limited space. And what happened in Asia, and especially in China, with the Chinese character set, it's very hard to build nice scaling, consistent designs with the Asian character sets, especially for the Chinese. So what WeChat, the WhatsApp in China did is started to deliver services within your texting interface. So they opened up and made it possible for Starbucks and McDonald's and all other services and companies to enter the chat space and make their services available through chat. So what happened next is that in Silicon Valley, the race became to become the new WeChat. As you see, there are more official accounts created in WeChat each day in China than there were website growth online in the same time. Also, mobile payments in China, it's 40% of the people pay through their messaging services. So it's moving really, really fast. And at the same time, we all know that everyone got a bit fed up with all the apps. So there's the need for a new ecosystem. There's a new need for a business platform in Silicon Valley. So the run and the race has begun. And this is another interesting graphic that the messaging apps, and I think especially when you can look at younger people, messaging apps are surpassing the big social platforms. So Twitter goes down, Facebook goes a bit down, Messenger goes up, WhatsApp goes up. So this is the trend we will see moving on and on. These are some numbers for the Netherlands. As you see, WhatsApp is really big. But Facebook Messenger in the Netherlands also 7 million installs. So it's quite big and not to be missed. And like I said, especially for the youngest people, I have 2 kids and they're very, very fast with communicating by texting and messaging, and that won't change for a while, I guess. Oh. Another thing, which is a reason there are such a lot of bots being built and why the hype is so big at the moment, is because of the costs for development are quite low. You have to, of course, when you want to make a really complex or heavy program, you have to invest in programming. But if you want to test a simple service, you can make use of the Facebook platform, and you're responsive, and it all works because Facebook takes care of the front end. So you can quite cost efficiently, you can make new ideas or test new ideas or try new things without app development or expensive website development. So that's one of the reasons a lot of Silicon Valley startups first start with a chatbot and then later on decide if they want to build a separate platform. And of course, this is the interesting bit and the sci-fi bit, is that there is a lot of things happening in the artificial intelligence and data stuff, which also make the promise for conversational interfaces very big, and a lot of investors get on this. Well, it's it's coincidental, but here's a Google logo. Of course, they're very, very heavy investing in AI and generative interfaces. But on the other side, there is also the retrieval, the how do you call it? What simpler logic to interpret languages. So those are both approaches for building a chatbot. This one is complex, and the other one is more on the easier side. So a lot of the current chatbots are not working with big data and learning, but are just NLP systems, which are quite advanced as well, but still in progress. Another reason why things got really big is the amount of APIs that are open. At our company, we work a lot with different APIs, and it makes your bot look smart. So you can make use of all kinds of services externally, but also make use of some intelligence or data connections without building it yourself. So that's one of the reasons it's big. So what's the reason for our clients or for a marketeer or a brand to start with a conversational interface or a chatbot? Well, first, it's a scalable personal one-on-one experience. The end user will have a personal experience at any time they want to interact with your service or brand. It's probably a main interaction pattern for new generations, whether it be voice-controlled or text-based. Conversation is here to stay, I guess. And for now, maybe that's changing fast, but if you build a chatbot and releasing it, the interaction is long and focused, so people spend more than 8 minutes with a chatbot instead of just reading an article or viewing only a second of your video. So that's quite interesting for brands and marketeers. Data capturing is also an important one. A natural dialogue flow is always more interesting than a simple forum. So it's interesting for marketeers to get data using this new approach. And it has great UX on mobile devices. Great UX, it's a super simple UX. So, last but not least, I think to start with conversational UI is also starting an experiment. So that's a good reason to start. So are there any challenges? Well, there are a lot, and I think with all the bots I've seen, and maybe the bots you have seen, this is one of the main responses of the chatbots you get. And when you get this response as a user, you immediately leave. So it's something you still see a lot, and all the UX designers and copywriters are working hard to get human like bots, but still they don't understand half of what I'm saying. So that's a very dissatisfying experience for now. So that has to be solved. On the AI part of things, you might know the experiment from Microsoft, where they started with an AI bot. Well, it learned to be racist and be an asshole in just one day, so they had to stop the experiment. And okay, there was black box technology. You don't know in advance what the bot is going to do. So that's one of the reasons we believe in scripting instead of using black box technology for this kind of purposes. Another one was very funny. Maybe you've seen it on television. There was a concern that the Alexa voice control bot accidentally went shopping. So when kids said, "Oh, please, can you buy a dollhouse for me?" Alexa went online and ordered a dollhouse on Amazon. And things really got weird when a news channel had a item about this. And they tested it on television, and in all the living rooms where Alexa was on, they ordered the dollhouses. So this is still not fixed, this kind of stuff. Another thing is that we're talking about non-linear conversations. It's not like logical steps like in a website or in a more usual pattern. Designing a non-linear conversation is very difficult, and it's also very difficult to test all probable input possibilities. So when designing conversational interfaces, we had to get back to not to Photoshop or Google Docs or something else. We had to make use of a text adventure maker, which is very simple, but well, it was the most easy way to plan out and sketch a nonlinear conversation. And still, it's not very good. So there are not very good design tools to make a conversational interface, which makes it hard. Another thing is that we're not only designing the conversations itself or the flow the user goes through, we're also designing the tone of voice. When you're talking about a bot, people expect some kind of human interaction, that it responds funny or very formal. And what happens in Silicon Valley and other places where they're very busy with chatbot designing is that they hire people from television, media, people who know what character building is, people who work for big Hollywood studios who are thinking now about how should a chatbot respond to the crowd, because it's a whole different game than just writing a payoff or an article or well, the things you do on a website. So conversation design and tone of voice is quite something different. So that's a challenge. So what's our vision to succeed is to start with a very simple and linear application. When you build a bot and you say, this is the Rabobank bot and I can answer all your questions, well, that's doomed to fail. So keep it simple and start just with a linear flow. Facebook Messenger gives all opportunities for really simple interfaces with buttons instead of text interpretation. So you can build your first quiz or game just in a day. You can start distributing your news headlines in quite a short time. You can build event services, so people can find out how late a specific band starts or whatever. You can plug it to the database. It's all very linear and simple, and you, when time passes, you can add different extra opportunities and functions. So. Yeah, one of the things is to limit the purpose, and I've just said it. Don't build a bot with a lot of possible users, but make it very specific, so the user beforehand knows what to expect from the bot. So they don't try. They will always try out if it responds like a human, but the dissatisfaction would be less when you narrow the purpose of the bot. So I'm skipping a bit. My advice when you start with chatbots for this time would be start on Facebook Messenger platform. It's easy and it has a lot of opportunities. And on the other side, people are logged in. So with one click, they engage with your bot without any registration stuff, and they can receive notifications. Well, it lasts, but I think soon marketeers will make use of this opportunity, and we get the same thing we had with apps. But for now, you can make use of the notification services. Use them wisely. Oh, there's a little mistake, but what we learned is that when you start a bot, every interaction you can log, and you can see what the user is doing with your bot. So every conversation is also user research, and it's very direct and concrete. You can see this is what the user said, this is what my bot said, and you can optimize it from there. So that's very interesting also to get used to this type of interfaces, but also to get used to and know more about your target audience. And prevent loops. So I just had the example, sorry, I don't understand what you said. Always build a menu structure or a help or some environment people can get back to and find out what the purpose of the bot is, where they are in the conversation, and that, so they never end in a dead loop or in a loop. I have a lot of slides, but I think I'm at the end of my presentation here. If you have any questions regarding bots or have some ideas to discuss, please get to me, call me, tweet me, and have a conversation, because it's a quite interesting subject, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, questions to Jesse over dinner.